Do you imagine going to somebody's house for a hookup and then them basically almost strangling you to death? That's a big no in my book. That is not something that I would want. 0 out of 10 would not want. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Jib Jab in the Queer Lab. As you can see, I am kind of dressed in my little cosplay. If you don't know who I am Louise from Bob's Burgers. So I figured I would dress up, we would read some spooky stories pertaining to dating and let's not meet stories and celebrate the spooky season together. This is from Let's Not Meet, and this one is called My Tinder Date Tried to Kill Me. Hey guys, I've been lurking on this sub for like 2 years. And thanks to some wonders of online dating, I finally have quite the story to share with you. I use Tinder pretty frequently, and it's usually cool. Just meeting people, chilling, smoking with most of them. So I matched with this dude named Charlie, and he seems cool. He's really cute, and he plays music, which is really appealing to me as I also sing and play piano. We talked for a little while, and I agreed to meet him at his house. Rule number 1, we don't go to their house. Mistake number 1. Why did I think it was a good idea to meet a stranger in their home? I don't drive, so I take an Uber over, and it's a decent way away, so it's kind of pricey. Which, girl, no, we don't pay like $20 for an Uber or more to go to somebody's place. We don't do that, no. When he buzzes me into the apartment complex, I got this really creepy vibe, but I shook it off his nerves. I go up to the 3rd floor and he's standing at the door. Things are cool, we're just chilling, we smoke a couple bowls, and we're watching a movie. So he makes a move on me, and I go with it. We end up on the bed, and we're obviously engaging in adult activities, when out of nowhere, he wraps his hands around my neck. Hard. Now that's fine and good with me. I mean, I can dig that in the right setting, but alone in a stranger's house when he didn't even check to see if it was cool is not one of those settings. So I literally can't breathe, and I'm fairly certain I'm turning blue at this point, and he is just relentless. Not only is he asphyxiating me, he's now yelling in my face, "Are you scared?" with this wild look in his eyes. And I'm like, frick, yes, I'm scared. You are trying to kill me right now. I started to struggle, and he was gripping me even harder. I'm not even kidding you guys. I seriously thought I was going to die. By some miracle, I wriggle out of his grasp and start screaming. He's yelling at me to calm down, and I'm frantically trying to put on my clothes. He grabs my wrists as I'm trying to leave, and I use all my strength to pull away and slam the door. As it was closing, the charming fella bid me adieu with the words, "Effing see you next Tuesday." I get home, I look in the mirror, and I have hella bruises on my neck. I try to cover them up with makeup to no avail. I straight up look like I was almost strangled to death. Then he texts me saying, "I think you need more than one man part." And I'm like, oh really? You want to bring a friend and kill me together? How lovely. Anyways, I blocked him and reported him on Tinder. I wish I could have done more because I seriously think he would have killed me. I've been debating going to the police, but the bruises are gone, and it's a he said, she said thing. But I'm really starting to wonder if I should, because the next girl might not be so lucky. 0 out of 10. So we're rating that 0 out of 10 date. 0 out of 10 date. Would not attempt murder again. Crazy strangler dude. Let's not meet. That's freaking crazy. Like, what is wrong with people? And you know what's crazy is a lot of these Tinder stories that I'm finding are like dudes and women. I haven't come across very many Tinder stories of like crazy chicks. Maybe guys are too embarrassed to post their stories or something, but I think that's kind of weird. Because I'm sure there are stories out there dealing with like some crazy girl. Do you imagine going to somebody's house for a hookup and then them basically almost strangling you to death? That's a big no in my book. That is not something that I would want, and 0 out of 10 would not want. Delete it, posted a comment. Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I should have gone straight from there when I still had the bruises to prove it. But I don't know. Just making his name available to the police in case anything happens in the future would be a good idea. I honestly think that the minute that happened, OP should have went to the cops. I don't know what I would do in that situation because like we don't know what we would do in that situation, but I would hope that if I was put in a situation like that where somebody strangled me like that, I would go to the cops. Everybody in the comments is saying too that she should have reported him. And I think she should have. I think she should have taken pictures of the bruises. That way she would still have like the proof. And she should have reported him. Definitely. One of the comments here says, had you gone straight to the nearest police station and reported what happened, I'll bet they would have taken pictures of your bruises, which with the story should book him for attempted murder. Which, yeah, I have to agree with. Unless they're like laissez-faire cops and like they just suck at their job. We have another story. This one's kind of a long one. This story is from Let's Not Meet, and this one is titled, My Ex Tried to Kill Me. I, female, 22 at the time of writing this, was almost killed by my ex-boyfriend, male, about 30 now. I will be changing the names as to protect myself. I'll start with a quick backstory. At the time of the attack, I was 19, almost 20. My ex, Gavin, was 27. We had a big chow chow and a cat, the dog being his and the cat mine. A few months before, we had allowed a friend to stay with us, Lacey, and it didn't end well. She was just taking advantage of us. The week leading up to the attack, Gavin had just gotten back from a work trip, and I believe was about 3 or 4 weeks away from home. The week he was back, he was completely out of it, not being able to complete a thought. I'd ask or tell him something, and less than 5 minutes later, he just completely forgot or just not have heard me. Just off in some other world almost. One day, I was very frustrated with this, and I asked for help with chores or for him to take the garbage out, only to be ignored. One day, he said that if I continued that, he would wanted me to slap him. We gone out for dinner with his mom 2 days prior to the attack, and she was obviously very worried about him. And there was clearly something wrong. At the time, the only mental disorder he had, or I was aware of, was OCD, in which I am now even more convinced that is not what he had by any means. The day of the attack, we'd just gotten back from grabbing some takeout and we were sitting on the couch in the living room. I'd been painting my nails and he was playing Mario Kart. He looked over at me and said, Lacey put a curse on my family. What is she, a witch? I was dealing with my own really poor mental health at the time, so I wasn't really in a space where I could be forcing on his. I have BPD. I wasn't sure what to do, so I suggested he just hop in the cold shower, as it helped him earlier in the week to just reset a bit. He walked into the bathroom and was muttering to himself, and it just felt so off. And I don't know how to describe it. I didn't feel safe. I walked over and asked if I could call his mom for him, maybe invite her over for supper, kind of beating around the bush that I wanted her to come help him. He looked at me and just started yelling that all he needed was me. I walked out and started for the living room as I was calling his mom. He came out of the bathroom naked and started yelling at Ollie, the dog, to discipline me and attack me. Mind you, he was trained as my guard dog. At this point, I believe his mom had answered the phone and heard what was happening. He started to call me Lacey and that I needed to pay for what I did. I ran into the bedroom with my phone, his mom still on the line. He kicked down the door and smashed my head into our mirrored closet doors and threw my phone to the ground. He was screaming that he was going to kill me. I scrambled out of the bedroom door, trying to get to the front door. As I was passing the kitchen, he got a hold of me and wrapped his arms around my throat, again saying he was going to kill me. I remember looking over to the table and seeing my cat, Sterling, all puffed up. I had never seen him so scared. I have cats, and I know that when I'm sad or upset or if anything happened, my cats have like this sixth sense and they can kind of tell. I was fighting not to go unconscious. I couldn't breathe. I clawed at him, just trying to get his arms off my throat. I remember starting to see black specks in my vision, thinking I'm going to die. What is he going to do with my body? He asked me. I knew what it was like to be R-worded. This is the part where I'm not sure if he was actually out of his mind, as I had been R-worded before, and it was a year to that month. I was very open about that and had been affecting me. He threw me to the ground and put his foot over my head as if to stomp on it. It was the only time I almost had seen his eyes throughout the attack, and they were almost lifeless, his pupils so dilated you could barely see the iris. He was yelling over and over again, "Admit it, Lacey, you know what you did, admit it." I just started apologizing, doing and saying anything I could to make him happy. This seemed to work, as I got the opportunity to scramble to my feet and race out the door. I just wish that I left the screen door open. I ran from house to house in nothing but shorts and a sweater in February in one of the coldest provinces in Canada. I had gotten to maybe 2 or 3 houses before I heard Ollie screaming. It's a sound I can never get out of my head. I just dropped to the ground screaming, crying, "Gavin, leave him alone." I knew he killed the dog. At this point, a bunch of neighbors had heard me and came running to help. An older couple called the police and brought me into their home, not knowing if they were putting their own lives at risk. My parents living in a completely different province. Someone gave me their phone to call my mom. She was out for supper with some friends, and I just told her Gavin killed the dog and tried to kill me. The police finally showed up after what seemed like hours. 5 or 6 cars, firearms out. They used the megaphone to tell him to come out with his hands up. He walked out naked, covered in blood. Once they had gotten him into the car, a police officer came to talk to me while the others searched the house. Shortly after, an officer came up and asked me how many dogs we had. I told him 1 and a cat. I asked if Ollie was still alive, and they told me he was dead in the bathtub. Gavin had killed him in the living room and brought him into the bathroom, filled up the tub, and put Ollie's body in it. I had asked about the cat, and they said they couldn't find him just yet. I was sure he had killed my sweet boy too. Sterling was the only thing I could think about when I went into a panic and was no longer able to give any information, as I was basically in tunnel vision. "Where's my cat? I want to find my cat." The officers asked if there was any treats they could use to coax him out and where his hiding spots were. They ended up finding Sterling alive but scared, and they couldn't get him as he was scared and attacking the officers. They blocked off the worst of the scene, so they had me go in and get Sterling. I'm glad that the cat was okay. Sucks though about the dog. As much as they did block off, there was still so much blood, and the smell of blood and feces is overpowering. Sterling was in the bedroom, on the bed, just crying. I scooped him up and asked officers to find my vape. As I was walking out of the house, Gavin's mom had just gotten out of her car. She asked me where Ollie was, and all I could say was Gavin killed him. She dropped to the ground and started bawling. I just walked past her and put Sterling into the car and sat in the front seat, not sure what to do, as I didn't want to go with her. In that moment, I hated her for what her son did to me and Ollie. To this day, I regret how I acted towards her. I had no right to be so cruel to someone who was also now suffering. My mom had gotten a hold of my aunt that lived a few towns over, so once I was done with the officers, I was able to go with her. Once the police were done doing whatever it was they were doing in the house, I had to get back in to get clothes and such. They forgot to close the bathroom door. Luckily, I wasn't the only one who walked in as Gavin's mom. The sound she made was horrible. Eventually, my aunt came and I went with her. The next day, I had to go back to the house to get my things. The police had gotten someone to take care of the body, but not the mess of blood and bodily fluids and pee and poop. Half of the stuff I didn't know what it was. His mom, sister, and I had to clean the house. Blood was everywhere. A lot of broken furniture. His mom was kind enough to clean it all and my bathroom, get my things, and go through anything that couldn't be saved. Unfortunately, I had African black soap. That night, I weighed myself and was washing myself with the bar of soap caked in Ollie's blood. I would have thrown that soap away. I would not have used that soap. 2 weeks later, Sterling and I were on a plane to my mom. The court case took 2 years, and I only later found out that he had loaded our guns. For the longest time, I didn't know how he killed Ollie, but when going through the evidence, an officer mentions a baseball bat. Not knowing, I didn't want to know. He only got 10 months of house arrest. That's crazy. I mean, he did only take the life of a dog, but still, isn't that like attempted murder? Shouldn't he get longer than that? To this day, 2 years later, he still tries to contact me, blaming me for not getting him help. I think the worst part is I do partly blame myself, not just for not knowing how to get him help, but also leaving the door open for the animals, for bringing the baseball bat into the house weeks prior because I was too lazy to walk it to the shed. Not your fault. You can't blame yourself for something somebody else did. A lot of the commenters are saying Ollie rest in peace, which yeah, Ollie rest in peace, because that's terrible. One of the comments says, OMFG, I am so sorry for what Gavin did to you and what he did to Ollie. You're extremely lucky he didn't kill you during his psychotic break. My husband had a psychotic break after becoming manic after not sleeping for a week. He thought I was his ex-girlfriend and that he'd kill me and left her in the bathtub. He was violent, but it was terrifying. He was saying awful things to me. This was 6 years ago. Gavin cannot blame you for anything. You tried to get him help by first calling his mom. I'm so relieved that your cat was okay. Mental health is something that's really important to manage and take care of, and it's not the other person's responsibility to manage or take care of your mental health. It's your responsibility to manage and take care of your mental health. Don't ever put your mental health on to somebody else. It's not their fault or their problem to deal with. It's your burden to bear, unfortunately, when you have mental health. I hope that all of you that are dating out there stay safe. I hope that you guys are smart about dating. I hope that nobody's going to anybody's houses. I hope that people are seeing the red flags and the signs too out there. It's really important that you do that. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoy your Halloween. I hope you enjoy your October. I will see you in the next video. Bye.